What I'll do, Tolly, is I'll join on that as well, then I can share the presentation.
Oh, perfect. Perfect, yes. Okay.
Hi, Gabriella.
All right, so good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of Staffordshire Black Business Network, the 28th of February, 2024. We are quite low on numbers here. So what we're trying to do is record this, and then people can have access to it and catch up on this later. Maybe we should just go around the room and say who's here, and then we can start. Okay, I'll start. My name is Tolu. I guess everyone will be entrepreneur, lecturer in management at Keele University, and yeah, yours truly, one of the chief servants in charge here. And then should we go ladies first?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Alex, and Tolu's asked me to come here today. I work for Unlimited, which is the foundation of social entrepreneurs. So I've come to talk a little bit about grant funding, early stage funding for early stage social entrepreneurs, or people who are thinking about scaling their social enterprise. Nice to see everyone, and we can talk about, if you want to have a one-to-one conversation afterwards. I'll pass on my contact details.
Okay, thanks, Alex.
Hi everyone, Jonathan Smith here from PPE, Positive People Empowerment. We are a people empowerment charity based in Mere, Stoke-on-Trent, national lottery funded for the next 18 months to help as many people as we can in the Stoke-on-Trent region, in terms of people empowerment from their ages of 16, just leaving school, to people who have maybe been out of work for some time looking to get back into work, and just try and help people navigate the pathway to a long and fulfilling career. So that's it in a nutshell.
So, hello everybody. My name is Danai Gombero. I'm a director at BIG Healthcare. And BIG Health is a local care agency based in Hanley, by the bus station. A bit about me. I'm a Port Vale supporter. Not a good season. I went on Saturday and we lost 2-0.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I like supporting other entrepreneurs as well, and I like being a positive role model as much as I can in supporting people, and downward mentoring and upward mentoring. That's about me. I'm a member of the Staffordshire Chambers of Commerce Council.
oh, nice. And we have from the Staffordshire Chamber of Commerce,
Yeah.
our main man, Tom.
So I'm Tom Nady, for those
No
who
introduction.
I'm Tom Nady, for those who don't know. So I'm the head of projects and business services here at the Chamber. I'm going to give you a little bit more of an update on some of the other funding that's available. Send a lot of people through to Limited as well. So yeah, I'll talk through that during the presentation a bit later.
Right, cheers. Online, I think we have Lillian and Gabby. Do you want to say anything? I think we know who they are. Okay, Gabby.
Yeah, you can say. So hi, I'm Gabriella Gay. I'm a poet and writer by trade and an academic, but I'm also the founder of Kwanzaa Collective UK, and we're an association of artists, academic activists and academics of colour. And I also run a vintage business. I'm a little bit in trouble with Alex because I can't talk highly enough about Unlimited, but we still haven't spent all of our money. Yeah, so I can't talk highly enough about Unlimited, but we still have a little bit of our money left, so I haven't. So yeah, apologies, Alex. I know I'm a nightmare. But yeah, so I'm a little bit poorly at the minute, which is why I've got my I'm very poorly actually. I've got COVID, so I've got my screen
Sorry about that.
at the moment. But I'll be listening in if I'm not particularly active. Yeah, so that's me.
Okay. That's a good problem to have more money at, well, not to have finished. Well, I don't know. Hi, Lillian.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Yeah, like Dr. Fula has said, my name is Lillian Akuche. So I am the CEO of Apollo Community Support. So we'll be doing a lot of things, but at the moment we are focusing on supporting people who are mostly bedridden, housebound, or chair-bound with activities, with any sort of activities so far. So we will be doing a referral, maybe house cleaning, whatever they would like to do, then we'll support them with that. So that is what we are doing at the moment. So as time goes on, we'll be doing more as well. And thank you, Alex, for coming in to give us insight about applying for funds. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Lillian. Okay, awesome. So the floor is yours, Alex. Yeah.
Thank you. So I've not bought any slides or anything. I just thought it'd be useful for me to informally talk about what our criteria is, what we're looking for, and please feel free to ask questions as I'm going along rather than waiting to the end. I'm not sure which direction to look at this. So I'm sorry. I feel like I'm back to you. So Unlimited is the foundation for social entrepreneurs. We've got an ongoing fund. So back in 2000, when all the celebrations for the millennium were going on, there was a big kind of chunk of money that was left over from that, and that was invested. So that's where our money comes through from, the interest on that big endowment. So we make awards quarterly, and it's designed to support people who might not necessarily be business people, but have got a solution to a social problem, perhaps addressing a need that is currently unmet, and that it's got a prospect of being financially sustainable. So when we use the term social enterprise, that's just a bit of an umbrella term. It's not an actual legal structure itself. So there are many different legal structures that could incorporate the term social enterprise. So it's a business that does good, essentially, that doesn't just distribute profits to shareholders or to the founder. Because we work with early stage people and people that have got ideas, we don't demand that you've kind of registered yourself with Companies House as a business. And that gives you a little bit of freedom to sort of try stuff out before you commit to a particular legal structure. And as well as the grant funding, we can support you through trying to figure out how you might become financially sustainable in real terms. You would need to sort of demonstrate that you've got some thinking behind that already. But a part of the support is not just the cash, it's about 12 months of mentoring and support, which you can dip in and out of depending on what your need is. We don't force you to if you just want the money and to run off and do your work, that's fine. So before I start any of this, it's a competitive process. So I haven't come here today to say I've got this big pot of money and I'm going to be giving it out. It's a national pot, so it's not just for Staffordshire. And the demand is huge. So at the last round, we had to say no to 93% of applications because of the sheer volume of applications that we get through. And I think the reason for that is the huge amount of applications is there's a load of people out there who want to do good. And they can see that they've got an opportunity to do something and they want to give it a try. What we're looking for, we don't necessarily need somebody who is, there's a group of people circulating in the world of grant applications that know all the buzzwords and can put a wonderful application together. But what we're looking for is somebody who might have lived experience of the issue that they're addressing, but if not, some professional experience where they've perhaps noticed that something's not quite right. We get a lot of people who have worked in the statutory services, for example, the NHS or social services, where they've said, actually, this system is failing and this is my solution, and I want people to pay me to do this instead. So it is competitive, but if you've got a really good idea and there's a prospect of it being financially sustainable, so people are likely to pay you to do that work because it's meeting high levels of need, and you can talk about why the need is there. So if you've got some examples of some stats about what you want to address, or some insights from your community that you're working in, then that will support the case for the need. Right, okay, so I've talked about need, I've talked about the fact that it's really competitive, and I don't want to put people off from applying. It's just I like to be realistic about how competitive it is, because there's obviously a load of wonderful people out there that want to do some great things. So what we're looking for an early stage applicant is somebody that's either got an idea and are not incorporated. If you've been trading for over 12 months, then we've got a slightly different award. But if you've been trading for over 4 years, it would then become ineligible, because we would think that after 4 years and you're still looking for the grant funding, then we would be asking some questions as to why that might be. And I know we've had a pandemic and we've had a lot of people who've incorporated, not done anything during the pandemic, perhaps had a baby and then are coming back to it, but because they've incorporated, they're then ineligible. So that's just something to think about. But the small award is for somebody who's had some thinking about, this is what the need is and this is what my solution is, so they can describe that clearly. That they've also, we don't want you to list how many GCSEs you've got, but like to be able to talk passionately about why you want to do this. And some examples maybe of the experiences that you've got or the work that you've done that is relevant to you being a great person to be doing this work. We also ask for some words about what thinking you've had about how this might be financially sustainable beyond the period of funding. So we're like the first tank of fuel in the car that you can then kind of go off and do your own thing afterwards. And we know that's a challenge, so there is flexibility around that. You know, if you're doing something where you're testing a concept, or you've got a product and it's a bit of an unknown, then if you can show that you've been having conversations with some people that might support that work, or so for example, we get a lot of people saying, I want to work in schools. Well, everyone wants to work in schools, and schools have got limited budgets. But if you've already shown evidence that you've had conversations with specific schools, or you're thinking about a pilot, or, you know, something that shows that a little bit of progression rather than you just saying, I want to work in schools, is what I'm saying. So that's around the financial sustainability. We also want to know that you're reaching the most vulnerable or the most marginalised groups. And I think what you've said today, people in the room, like the target beneficiaries are likely to be that, just because of the nature of your work. So just to sort of state that really clearly and obviously, because again, we get quite a lot of applications for what I would describe as yummy mummy activities like yoga and meditation and stuff. And it's like, is that really addressing high level of need? particularly if you're asking people to pay for that service, what you actually might need to do is think about models where the actual beneficiary doesn't need to pay because they're unlikely to be able to afford it. Like, how can you get around that? Who's going to pay you to do the work? And that's it really for the criteria. I think the process is fairly straightforward. I don't know if Gabby can say otherwise. I don't know. The application doesn't ask for reams and reams of information, and it's a two-stage process. So there's a shortlisting process, and those that get shortlisted are invited to come and speak for 5 minutes about their application, and it's normally done online. We give you a structure of a couple of things to talk about over that 5 minutes. It's not like Dragon's Den, so we don't grill people about like nitpicking and being awkward on purpose. It's just to find out a little bit more. And then the trustees make the final decision. The people who are on the panel would have the conversation and ask some more questions, then write up what they've heard, and then it goes to the trustees who make the final decision. We make 4 lots of awards per year, so every quarter. So there's a bit of lead-in time, and quite often applicants, by the time they get to the pitching stage, quite a lot's happened, and sometimes they can show that they've actually progressed, which is quite nice as well, and they've kind of moved things forward. With the bigger award, so I'll tell you about the amount. So it's quite modest amounts. The startup award is up to £8,000. It can't be used for wages. It can be used for setup costs, professional fees, so bringing accountants and web designers in. But we would think that you might invest some of your time in that yourself while you're doing pilot work, or while you're setting up, or while you're having those conversations with potential customers. The bigger award for established organisations, we ask for some information about profit and loss, so we can look, and then some projections for the next 12 months, so we can see that kind of transition away from grant dependency into some income from sales. And again, we know that there's challenges around that, and it might take longer in this economic climate to get to a point where you're financially sustainable, but it's about evidence of that transition away and into income from sales. So that award is up to 18,000, and that is designed. We find quite often that our social entrepreneurs who've been on the first programme have got to a point of capacity because they're doing everything themselves, or they're holding down another unrelated part-time job to help them to be able to pay their bills. And the £18,000 is a bit of a kind of financial cushion, so they can maybe step back from that and focus on it full time. We have got 4 existing award winners, a process where you can top up in small increments an £8,000 award, and this is a fairly new initiative because we found that there was a gap between people who are ready financially to go for the bigger award and those people who are on that journey to be ready for it. So it's an internal process, so the applicant or the award winner doesn't have to put in another application. We can just put it forward and make a case for it internally. So that's part of my job, is to sort of talk about it to the trustees, and then they will ask some questions or not, or approve it or not. And you can go back to them if it's not approved as well. So they are the awards, that's the criteria. In terms of the additional support, you would be allocated a support manager, which would be somebody like me who can kind of meet on a semi-regular basis to talk about what your needs are and how we might be able to match you to other support. So I'm a bit of a Jackie of all trades, so I know a little bit about everything, but actually we've got some mentors who know more, a bit more specialised. We also try and get social entrepreneurs together in peer support groups as well. So we've just done one for housing. So we've got some social entrepreneurs, all different stages, that they're providing alternative housing solutions. So they are now meeting regularly. I'm also about to set one up for social entrepreneurs that are working with refugees. So you can see, like, sometimes it's useful for people who are at different parts of the journey to just have conversations about what the challenges are, and sometimes they can help each other. So I think that's me. If anyone's got any questions.
Oh, I have questions. I have 4 questions. Thank you. I'm just, based on feedback we've gotten from our members, I'm just going to try and, just simplify. So, first question is regarding the structure of the application itself. So, Alex is, Tom has kindly shared this with us in the past. So, the 8,000 startup and then this 18,000 scaling up. If I was, say, Tom right here, I was Lillian and I was trying to write my application. If you just walk us through the structure of the application, so, and I'm just being my regular academic, you start off by introducing your business, then you go to the need, what would be the subsections, how many words do you want to have in there? Just my academic hat on. So that's my first question. I have 3 more. Should we handle that and then we go?
Do you want me to answer the first question? Otherwise I'll forget what the first one is by the time we get to the last one.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are a few more questions, I think, with the bigger award, just because it makes sense because you're asking for more money potentially. So the first question on the startup application is about what.
So it's an online application. So
it is.
So you just have to fill in what's in there.
Yeah, it's done through a portal, but you can download the questions from the website and work on them independently away from the portal. And I don't always recommend that, because if you're typing directly into the portal and it breaks down, I've had people ring me before going, I've lost all my work. I've worked all day. Yeah. So the first question is about identifying what the problem is.
Okay.
So it doesn't really ask you what your solution is at that stage. So it's and there's only really 3 big wordy questions, and there's a character limit.
Yeah.
So it's not a word limit, it's 2,000 characters with spaces.
Yeah.
So we're asking you to be fairly succinct.
Okay.
And a lot of people want to use flowery language, but bullet
My
points.
students do all the time.
Yeah, just use as fewer words as you possibly can to describe what it is that you want. And I like a bullet point, when people are like bam, bam, bam. Yeah, exactly. So, and we're trying to figure out there whether you've got an understanding of like the landscape in which you're operating and what the issue is. Okay. And you can talk a little bit about what your solution is in that, and quite often people do. On each question, there's always a bullet points below that are like, they're not sub questions, but they're prompts as to what you should include. And my tip is, make sure when you've done your answer that you've addressed each of those things, because that's essentially what we're looking for, and that's how they'll be marked. Okay. The next question is about you as an applicant. So like, what's driven you to do this? And some people do reveal their lived experience, and we do put a caveat on that, like you don't have to, but sometimes it is useful to understand why people are motivated to do something. The next question is about how you will intend to sort of sustain the activity. So thinking about what your business model is. And again, there's some sub questions asking like who you've spoken to and that sort of thing, just to sort of give us a bit more idea. And then in between those questions, there are just some tick boxes. So they're the easy parts, like who are your intended beneficiaries, and there's a big list, and then you've got the opportunity to write other and then sort of talk about that. So it's quite a simple application when compared, I think, with other.
On that, I have a question, but just on this point now, because I can see we have Agbo, and for Agbo, he's a retail business, but he has the social side to it.
Yeah.
Would that be something, how would you go about explaining that in your application, because I mean, social ventures, social enterprise. I'm just thinking, I mean, for some of us, I can see Lillian here, I can see, Danaya. So it's, Lillian, I think for you, it should be easy to explain exactly how you're helping people, right?
Yes. So I wanted to ask her that question as well. Like for myself now, I help I support individuals actually who are housebound. So it could be chair, it could be bed, with activities, light size, help them with computer. Just depends on the situation anyway, because we have to first of all make an assessment to know it's kind of a client-led activities or support. They will tell us this is what I'm lacking, this is what I need. So we tend to do a lot for them. For example, if somebody maybe they have a bills we they have not paid and the bills are piling up, we could help them, support them with the setting up the payment, through their phone, through their whatever device they have, that kind of a thing. So they can be able to meet up with their day-to-day bills and stuff like that, instead of them missing out. So with computer, really, it could be anything,
So that's quite a
activities,
common
exercise.
thing that we see. It's the very act of what you're doing is social impact. I suppose what we're also interested in is what the business model is. So like, who are your paying customers that are enabling you to sustain? So are you accessing local authority contracts? Are there some private customers paying? And it might be a combination of all of those things. So with Agbo, I think again we get some people who I call it Robin Hoods, like it's like charging the people who can afford to pay and then using the surpluses for the social impact stuff. And we get people who are doing things that aren't related at all to the social impact. They just use a percentage of their surpluses to invest.
And that's my next question. So perfect. So what is an example of what you don't want? Like, if you can give us an example of what you don't want to see, of something that would make you part of that 93% rejection that we don't want.
So I would say things like forest schools are a good example. It's a commercial venture run by individuals who paid to have that forest school accreditation, who were then paid by schools or the Scouts or whoever to go in. So although it's a nice to do thing and it's nice to get children outside, actually it's a commercial venture and it's hard to see where the social impact is, because you might, it might be the most affluent children in the most affluent schools that are using that. So it's limited. I think I used the example of the kind of yoga sessions and things like that. If you were doing yoga sessions with people who couldn't access yoga and it was part of a wider kind of therapy or support approach, then that would probably fit better than somebody who wants to teach yoga.
And that was my next question. What's an example of what you're looking for?
So the kind of thing that Lillian's doing is a good example. Who I've been talking to, I mean, there's loads of stuff. Peggy, so the social impact there is that she's employing people who would otherwise struggle to get into employment because they've got children and they need to work flexibly. So, the value of somebody being able to access employment is, it could be life-changing for that person. I've got a guy in London at the moment who's working in housing. So he is working as a bridge between private landlords in London and local authorities, because there's increasingly like a layer of people who can't afford to pay their London rents anymore because they're just about managing, and because of the cost of living, they're no longer managing. So he's negotiating with the local authority, who are paying him a fee to top up the private rented rent because it's cheaper for the local authority for that family to sustain the tenancy than for them to be evicted and be homeless. I've got a woman in Manchester who's working with families who are at crisis point, but are not accessing the services that they're entitled to. So it's like multiple challenges that they're facing. Usually, like English is not their first language, so they just can't, it's impossible for them to access the services. So what social services are saying is that they're dealing with those people, but there's no ideas about like the cultural challenges, the language barriers, the fact that they're slipping through the net, and then the crisis is increasing and not getting better. So she's picking up contracts where she's able to support those people. Sometimes she goes around to the house and makes them have a shower. But she's looking at being that advocate between all the services that are supposed to be supporting to ensure that they get, you know, we've had one woman, for example, living in a property where there was water running down the walls, and she was being told by a landlord, oh, don't dry your washing inside. That wasn't what the problem was. So she's helped her to move to a different property because it was affecting her family's health. So this is like real kind of crisis stuff, and she's picking up contracts. So there's some good examples of people that are really tackling.
Thank you.
Are the case studies on the website?
No, there are some case studies, not those ones. I'm not sure if they've given permission for like written case studies, but there are definitely some case studies on the website of examples of like supported social enterprises. Yeah.
Thanks for telling us these examples. Those are my questions. Anyone has it?
I've got a couple of questions. The first question is, you did mention that if you incorporated, then you might be ineligible.
Yeah.
So what if you are incorporated, doing your full-time job, working somewhere?
Yeah.
Then on the side, and it is not part of your job, you do some social value things. Would you still qualify?
Yes, but in that case, you would only be eligible for the early stage award because you hadn't incorporated, and even if you're sort of a little bit further down the line than you would be if it wasn't your side hustle. So yeah, you can, and people do that.
That's good. And is there a deadline? You said every 3 months. So would that be there is a deadline every 3 months? So
Yes.
The submissions by this date and outcome by this date, and grants by this date.
Yeah, you can apply at any time, but there are deadlines where we say, right, we're going to assess the applications received between now and this date for this particular quarter, and if it hasn't been received by that date, then it goes into the next quarter's assessments. All the dates are on the Unlimited website. Yeah.
If you don't make one round, can you apply for the next round?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you get rejected as well, but you will receive feedback, you can reapply. And I would be happy to talk to you, like if you have been rejected, and because with rejection reasons, so you can like, if there's stuff to work on, then you can work on it and then come back. If you're rejected for ineligibility, there's normally something like you've been incorporated too long, or it doesn't meet the criteria. But if you've been given some specific feedback about one particular element and it's not to do with eligibility, then you can apply again.
Hey, do you have any other?
If there's no question, I would just give this a lived experience. I've worked in mental health for 24 years, supporting people with mental health problems. And the challenges that we've always had over the years is when people are detained under a section, which is the most common one is section 3, is they can appeal against that section. and the person who represents them to appeal against this section is a random person, a random lawyer who turns up the day before or on the day to represent them. So the chances of them getting off a section, next to nothing, 2% most of the time. And we've always thought that because of coming from that background and also coming from the minority background, it makes sense for someone with my professional experience or someone similar to be able to represent them because of culture, and also because of knowledge of the Mental Health Act, and also because of knowledge or maybe a slightly different understanding of certain behaviors that might increase chances of, in this example, people of ethnic minorities being disproportionately detained. So I don't know whether that would come under that, like an organization that goes into hospital and represent minority mental health patients on their mental health review tribunals.
So, I mean, you've already told me there that people from different ethnic backgrounds are disproportionately sort of marginalised by that existing system, that you are well placed because you've got all this professional experience plus the sort of the knowledge about the cultural nuances, and that you've got a solution to go into hospitals and be an advocate. I suppose the only thing you would probably need to look at in addition to that is who might pay you to do that work so you can sustain it, or how can you bring money into that organisation? It might doing something else that then might be able to cover those costs so that you can keep doing it. But yeah, that sounds.
The current model, the government, the public purse pays for a lawyer to do it. So we believe that maybe we will be better placed than, in some instances, than a lawyer, or to work alongside a lawyer, because the funding for those services is already there. And another example, is the police are not trained to support people with mental health problems. And also, which is not any fault of the police, is the fault of the system, because police are trained in a certain way. But people with mental health issues, when they have a crisis in the community, they have to be supported in a certain way. And when police attend, there's only one way, or there's only one outcome. You're coming with us whether you like it or not. Or not. Then over the years, that has led to the use of force, least restrictive issues, and also obviously the death of minorities in police cells. So my solution would be the government is asking police not to attend to mental health crisis issues. And my solution would be to work alongside police and to be there with police when there is what they perceive to be a mental health crisis. And then if there's a mental health professional there, then hopefully there could be a positive outcome, rather than maybe the disproportionate use of force from the police. And so I guess my question would be, would that be a scenario that could qualify today?
But again, I think, so I know a little bit about that because I've got a friend who's a paramedic, so she talks about that push and pull between the police and the paramedic and who's responsible for what. And I know people who've worked with the police, and I think it's really tricky to get them to pay for that service. So I suppose the challenge would be like who would pay? Who would pay? Undoubtedly, there's high levels of need there. And again, you look to be really well placed to be tackling that, but how how would you sustain that? And I think that's the thing that we're looking for, is you might be able to get this funded as a pilot, you know, through other funders. But actually, if you're looking at a longer term systemic approach where everybody's doing it, yeah, like what conversations do you need to have at what level and with who? And it's worth being ambitious. And I think at Unlimited, we definitely encourage people, or try and help where we can, to enable people to get those seats around the right tables, or find out who already has and speak to them about how they can do it. But it is a challenge.
Thank you so much. Alex, do you have Monica says to say hi?
Oh, hi,
Sending love. So we're going to move along now. Please, if anyone has any questions for Alex, I have an email address. You know, we can put that, we can arrange for that. And, you know, we can always beg her to come back.
I'm happy to come back.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you so much.
No problem.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So we will move on to Tom. Tom has some funding, some new funding opportunities that he wants to share with us. So over to you, Tom. Can you share your screen?
Yeah, I can share onto that screen.
There you go.
So what I said I'd do at the last meeting is, I know the presentation that I previously shared really had kind of Stoke-on-Trent and I think Newcastle at that point. So I've expanded the presentation now. It's 40 odd slides long. I won't be going into every slide into detail and those kind of things. But I've said to Tolu that I'm more than happy for it to be shared on the Black Business Network website, so then people can kind of have a look through. It has on there as well the links of where you can then go to find out more information of the different programs that are available. But essentially what I've tried to do is give a bit of a breakdown about what UK Share Prosperity funding is and how it's changed, and how now a lot of the funding that is available is through local authorities. So it is very postcode based. It'll depend on where your business is based, who you pay your business rates to, or where you live if you're a startup business, for example, on what funding that you could then potentially access. There is, as I've mentioned before on the Growth Hub website, a postcode tracker that you can look at.
Yeah, I'll put that just to say that postcode tracker is now on the website of Staffordshire Black Business Network. If you just go Staffordshire Black Business Network website, that's www.staffsbbn.co.uk. There's a link, there's a page there for funding opportunities. Once you just click on that, you will see the postcode tracker. Okay, you see the link to that. Once you click on that link, it takes you to a page where all you have to do is put in your postcode, and you can see all the available funding that is available for that postcode.
And they should be keeping that website. It's not something that belongs to the Chamber. It is Staffordshire County Council, I think, and Stoke City Council that are running it. So they should hopefully keep that as updated as possible. So the link is on there anyway, should people want to have a look at when the presentation goes out. There is also, though, a business helpline as well that you can contact, and that number as well is on there. So if you've got any questions, you want to ask anything about funding, then you can do that through that helpline as well. And then essentially what I've done is then just given some funding snapshots on what is available in Stoke. So some of these we've talked about before, like the Fly High scheme that is available to startup businesses.
I think somebody's mic is on. I will put that. Yeah, okay, just mute the person.
Another one is promoting innovation pathways program we've talked about before. So someone's looking to do an innovative product, process or service. Again, there's a grant fund there to be able to help to develop that new innovation. It is mainly for established businesses, but there's a £5,000 grant there, and that is delivered through the Chamber on behalf of the City Council. If any business in specific areas, which are advanced manufacturing, digital, life sciences, and the energy sector, then the City Council have got a grant to encourage more businesses to set up and to move to Stoke-on-Trent. That is between 10,000 and 50,000. It will cover some capital items, so fixtures and fittings, plant and machinery, but they will only, as we've said, provide up to 30% of the total capital project cost. The remaining amount would have to be provided by the business. So that is, while it seems like a lot of money, it's probably very niche on who could access that that pot and fund. But I put it on there just in case anyone is interested. There is a skills grant as well. So somebody, if you as a business are looking to maybe upskill in a certain area, you've got a course that you maybe want to go on to that will be able to.
Sorry to take you back. Would that manufacturing, does it have to be high? I mean, manufacturing can be local manufacturing. If I was making patties, for instance, you know, would that be manufacturing? Because it looks like
they say advanced manufacturing.
manufacturing.
So I think that they will be looking at things around robotics, advanced materials, those kind of areas.
Okay.
If in doubt, I would always say contact the people who run the grant. So Grant Wardle in this kind of case. Have a chat with him. He would then be able to explain if it's the sort of thing that they are specifically looking for.
Okay.
There is a skills hub grant, like I've mentioned. So if you are looking to maybe upskill, have a course, take on a course or do a course where you have to pay for that course, then currently the skills hub have utilised all their grant funding for this financial year. But from the 1st of April, they will then have another batch of funding that's available where you can get a skills grant of up to £500. There's no match that you have to provide to that. So if you've got a course that's £500, for example, they would be able to cover the whole cost of it. And for you, again, these are for people in Stoke-on-Trent. Newcastle currently hasn't got any actual grant funds to be able to provide out to businesses. What they have are what are called growth programs. So their 2 growth programs, well, they've got 3 growth programs. They're being run by Keele and Staffordshire University. One of them is called Flourish. This is then supporting SMEs, community groups and not-for-profits to be able to benefit from student and graduate talent at Keele. So they will be able to help deliver 60 projects, and they're looking at themes around digital society and economy, so digital transformation projects, sustainability, SME and innovation, culture and creativity. So actually, if you're doing a project around maybe kind of culture or kind of the creative side, then again, they can potentially help you with a student and academic through that. And then entrepreneurship as well within that program. So there's no actual grant fund, but you can get access to a skilled kind of student or graduate talent. And then another program which they've got is then called Moving Your Head, which is all around intensive research and development and innovation. So if you're looking to develop a new innovative product or process for your business, they again